The Out of Bounds Show podcast is brought to you by Bank Plus. Bank Plus, it's more than a name, it's a promise.
WRKS Pickens Jackson.
All systems go.
Live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the Bank Plus studio.
This is Al Warden.
Live in the studio. It's the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming live worldwide on the Out of Bounds radio app. And on your radio at ESPN 105.9.
All set? Let's go.
The Zone.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Back in the Bank Plus studio after a 2-week road trip to the beach in Omaha, Nebraska, and the College World Series. Good morning. Welcome in. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Powered by the Golden Moon Casino and our friends at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, Pearl River Resort. We are streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app and the zone1059.com. Several different ways that you can get in touch with us. Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line, 60. We'll go back to this number after a 2-week hiatus. 601-707-3750. Twitter handle at Bo Bounds, and the Mississippi Ag John Deere Tractor text line is 601-885-3776. 885-3776. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. I've got Blake Mania with me. Welcome in. Buckle up. Here we go for 3 hours as we will talk about Hail State's national championship in baseball. And the run and the who, where, when, why, and how of why we're here today. And Starkville, Mississippi is still off the chains, whether it's Two Brothers or any number of the restaurants, bars, Cotton District, and so on that have been celebrating. And I know many of you have been celebrating too. We've got a lot to get to. Golly, it's good to be back in the beautiful Showcase Bank Plus studio. It is nice to be here. Good to be home. I like traveling, but 13 nights away is too long. I'm not going anywhere for a long time. So maybe even Labor Day weekend or something like that. Well, let's start with this. So we didn't have a show yesterday. I had to get on a plane to get home. Blake had to drive home for whatever it was, Blake, 13 hours or something?
Oh, yeah. A little bit more than that, but yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah, once you add in the fact that I only stopped once for gas, though. Didn't stop for food. Made the whole trip in one stop.
Really?
It's called efficiency. That's my dedication to our listenership, okay? So that I could be back here and provide excellence just like the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Yes. Okay. So you only stopped once?
I stopped halfway, right on the other south of Fayetteville.
Okay.
Yep.
And you filled up?
And I filled up. Two tanks.
Your Cherokee made it?
Oh, yeah, baby. It gets like 500 on a full tank, so the whole trip is just under that.
Okay.
Yeah, nailed it.
Okay.
I had like 90 miles in the tank when I got home.
Wow.
Nailed it.
Wow.
Excellence, baby. I bleed it.
You do.
You ain't lying.
You and Will Bednar?
I'm a consummate professional.
Yes, you are. Yes,
Dude,
you are. What time did you get home?
Doesn't matter. At like 8.
Okay.
I left at like 7:30.
Okay.
So there you go, 13 and a half hours. I mean, like right on time.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Nice.
I was flying.
Did it feel like you were in Omaha, Nebraska for 3 weeks?
Correct. And I was only there we were there at the same time, actually.
Yeah.
Although I know you contemplated whether you were going to go for the Texas part of the thing, and then you ended up making it. Yeah, Friday to Thursday felt like an eternity. My parents were there from game 1.
That's incredible.
Yep. And they said, we're not going back. They said, we won the whole thing. That's it. We're good. We'll watch the rest from home.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Incredible. What a run.
What a run.
Capped off by this.
Pushes a bunt to third. James to first. He's out. What a way to end it. And what a way to end a drought. Mississippi State, the national champions, destroying Vanderbilt
Did you hear that?
Destroying.
I didn't realize Carl Ravitch said that.
26 innings of pure, unadulterated domination, baby.
Well, but think about just game 2 and game 3.
22-2.
I mean, that against the Vanderbilt Commodores.
22-2.
Who had kind of solidified themselves as the new number 1 in college baseball. They've taken over LSU.
Patriot-esque?
Years ago, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, LSU is, long given up, the number 1 college baseball program in the country. I think I just said football twice.
No, Vanderbilt's they're the big bad boy in the room.
Right.
100%. 5 World Series trips in like 9 years, 10 years. Like
they live there.
4 3 title appearances now. They've won 2. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yes. And all the most Major League Baseball draft picks at the last 10 years than any other program in college baseball.
And a tandem of pitchers who people said might be inarguably the best 1-2 punch the sport has ever seen at the collegiate level.
How about that?
And what did you do? You walked into what has been their home. Your fan base took it over. And after one shaky inning, for 26 innings, you dominated what's been the best program in college baseball on the biggest stage, a stage that you've never, ever seen any success on at that level.
No. And I'll tell you this, Blake. I think I thought I knew what it took to win. We followed it for years. I grew up. The first thing that I remember is my parents with a group in the outfield in 1980.
Yeah.
Okay?
The lifestyle.
And
absolutely.
back then, it was very rustic and rural. It wasn't what it is today, where everybody's got these awesome-looking rigs and beautiful grills and amazing food. And I would chase Gillespie and Castoria home runs, eventually Raffy and Will home runs as a kid. And that's what cut my teeth on Mississippi State baseball. But Blake, and so I followed it, and I get the first format of the way that the regionals were set up. And then when it changed in 1999, and I've been out there 4 times, but I did not have any idea, because everybody talks about, if you win the first 2 in Omaha,
you're there. Yeah, that's
you're
what they
not
say.
there.
Nope.
That's false. That's a lie. That is, you're still so far from winning a national title. And the fact that I experienced the weekend and the 3-game series, when you go through the regionals, the super regionals, what I now call the first part of Omaha, the second part of Omaha, and then the national championship series of Omaha, which is the third part. When I tell you it is excruciating, and it blew my mind because I didn't play. I mean, the physical wear and tear on these players, because we always talk about football, which is great. But baseball's physical, basketball's physical. But the physical and mental wear and tear of what you have to be to win it.
Yep.
And how mentally strong you have to be between the ears is something that I really didn't comprehend until going through this.
Yeah. Will Bednar had to throw nearly 300 pitches for you to break a curse that's kind of held your university captive for nearly, as ESPN let us know, nearly 1,000 complete seasons over 3 different sports.
And also, when you think about what you're, for example, to not commit an error in the College World Series.
Never happened for a national champion before.
And to do it without really a 2 and 3 starter, although Houston Harding did come up. Timing is it takes just people stepping up in a role that they may not have filled in February, March, April. That's why don't get ahead of yourself in February and March. We talk about that all the time. Some people can't, some people can. But, don't get this thing. When I tell you it's not just a marathon, it's several. Because it's a marathon once you get to Omaha. And that's after going through a 30-game SEC series, a regional and super regional. It's even more difficult to win than I thought. Big board coming up next. Chris Lemonis at 8:30 Welcome in. Good morning. Hail State 2021.
The Out of Bounds Show podcast is brought to you by Boar's Head, premium meats, cheeses, and hummus. Boar's Head, compromise elsewhere.
Big board. What's on the big board?
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in. The Big Board is brought to you by Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. Surgery Center Clinic, Lakeland Drive, Flowood, to go with Fortification in Belhaven. My stomping grounds growing up. That's why that is a legendary area, by the way. We're live in the Bank Plus studio, Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. The show is brought to you by MississippiSportsMedicine.com. Show is also presented by RPT and Rick's Pro Trucks, spraying bed liners and lift kits. RPT. Rick's Pro Truck, new retail location, Gluckstadt, Madison County. RPT Commercial, now on Highway 80 East, right there where Sound and Communications, Miss Kelly's, Jeff Coat Fencing, the airport, which I just flew into yesterday. Was I glad that that plane hit the ground? Yes, sir, I was. Our guest will join us on the Modelo guest line. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. I've got Blake Scott with me. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. Mississippi State, they are the 2021 national champs. NCAA baseball national champions. Banner is already going up, or up. Blake, is that what you told me?
That's right. They put it up yesterday in Duty Noble. There was some leaked footage of the guys, the crew, out there in the outfield.
Did you leak it?
I did not. I was not in Starkville.
That's something that you would do.
I was not in Starkville.
I get a call from John Cohen.
No, it was some reporter. It was a reporter who leaked a little video of them getting the banner put up, or the sticker. I don't know, whatever you call it. The wall.
Yeah,
will have the marking on it. So, truly an incredible. I mean, I saw so many different posts and stuff, but it's easy to talk about. It's easy to say, but you're talking about a championship that a lot of Mississippi State fans felt like they should have had 40 years ago.
Well, and I've lived that, having been introduced to the game in 1980 in the outfield by my parents, and there have been some highs, but there have been a lot of lows, and so many times coming up short, or not even coming close, really, of driving far enough into the postseason, Blake. And yet, all of a sudden, things started to change with John Cohen. And Cohen's whole, he has not told me this, but in my opinion, his whole MO was to start to talk about Omaha, a national championship, and make sure everybody understood that the only goal, the goal is not to pack the park and all the great food and all of that and host regionals. The only goal was to hang a banner in a national championship.
Yep.
And if y'all remember, I don't know how many of y'all remember this, but I was there, so I do. Do y'all remember the 2013 National Championship Series press conference after they lost it, in which Cohen defiantly told the fan base that the program would be back and would win it? Do y'all remember that after Game 2 of the UCLA series? That was something that always stuck out with me. It's about a 30-second clip, maybe. Go back and watch it. It's obviously very intense because John is extremely intense. And from there, a lot of stuff had to happen. John eventually realized that he wanted to be the, general manager of the program, so to speak. And he signed a guy named Jake Mangum, and they started going to World Series. You got to go a lot, most of the time. Every now and then you can pull a Coastal Carolina, guys. But for the most part, you've got to go and go and go and figure the whole thing out, And that is what's, for Florida's a great example of that too, by the way.
Yep.
Florida went and kept going and eventually, won it. And then Cohen finds his guy in Chris Lemonis, who we'll have on at 8:30 today, and the rest is history. But Blake brought up some things before the show that I want to talk about, and the big board this morning is brought to you by Eye Care Professionals and Dr. Kirk Jeffries and his team on Lakeland Drive. Routine eye exam, blade-free LASIK and cataract surgery. They have a new location, Belmead, Flowwood, Lakeland Drive, Eye Care Professionals. So this team was so good throughout the year, by the way, at two-strike hitting.
Incredible.
They were good at punching people, as Cohen walked us through a couple of weeks ago, Blake. They were good at striking people out and putting the ball in play with two strikes. And I thought you made a good point before the show. A very uncharacteristic Vanderbilt-like, because they are almost robotic.
Yep.
Their nerves were shot during the national. Well,
the whole week,
CWS,
yeah.
But during the national championship series, they bobbled balls, they made errant throws, and you had a freshman shortstop for Mississippi State, and what is really a freshman in Cam James at third base that kept making plays. They kept making plays, and some of them were routine, but Vanderbilt made errors
they couldn't
on
make
routine plays.
Yeah.
And so the big stage got to them, and it didn't get to this Mississippi State team that is really plays loose. They just...
Best definition.
Not that they're not super intense, because I think they are, but they've got this, Tanner Allen dude effect.
Yep.
And I think it permeates, or I think it did permeate throughout the team, Blake.
100% you're right. There's two things that I took out of what you just talked about, and I think are very important to make note of. Vanderbilt committed 6 errors in the second 2 games of the College World Series Finals. 3 each day. 6 errors total on the way to getting routed 22-2 in 2 games. Part of that is they were getting tight, but part of that is Mississippi State was putting as many balls as they could in play, and sometimes that works out for you and sometimes it doesn't. So that's a team that, people talked about during the year. Oh, why isn't there more power? Why don't they swing bigger sometimes? Look, I
questioned everything about this team.
When you're a 2-strike hitting team, at the end of the day, as D1 baseball analyst Mike Rooney said over the weekend, when you have a 2-strike approach that puts balls in play, eventually that works out well for you, and it tends to bring you to the winner's circle. Yeah. The second thing I want to point out is how incredible is what Lane Forsythe dealt with over the last month of the season. Because I've said it too. He was struggling at the plate, and that's an understatement.
Yeah.
But it did not touch his mind when he got on the field. He played literally lights-out defense. The pop-up that he called early in the game yesterday, when no one else, Cam James didn't see it, Braylon Skinner didn't see it.
He lost it and then found it again, by the way.
If he doesn't catch that, who knows what happens?
It was right in front of me.
They probably score.
Yeah.
So for him to do all that and forget everything else at the plate and play incredible defense and then to come back and get 4 hits in the last 2 games, truly remarkable. I mean, that's a freshman who didn't let the voices get in his head. And that's the definition of why this team ended where it did instead of short of that goal.
Yeah.
That mentality.
Well, and so Cohen has shared a lot of that with us the last few weeks. And this is fascinating because he's been beat up a lot too, Blake. And now people are slowly coming around to what I have been saying for a long time.
For years you've said that.
Okay. Yep. That he's the one that modernized the program and that he took it into the 21st century and that he did all these things to it that none of us will ever know. Okay. I mean, all these different things that had to be done to take it kicking and screaming into the 21st century. And so Cohen, Mangum, Cannizzaro getting Tanner Allen to flip from LSU to Mississippi State, Jake Gautreaux and Henderson, and then Chris Lemonis is the calm guy, but who is super intense, got that Italian flair in him. He will get on your tail. Somebody told me this that's close to the program. Chris has the ability to really get on a player, but not lose that player for 2 weeks. And I think maybe that doesn't happen in some baseball programs. The ability to really ride your tail. And then but the ability to not lose you. And I think there's something to that. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools. Welcome in. Good morning. Chris Lamonis, 8:30.
The Out of Bounds Show podcast is powered by Breezy Oaks Ranch. For Mississippi-raised premium Wagyu beef and heritage pork shipped straight to your door, visit breezyoaksranch.com.
Oh, good morning. The SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Independent Roofing Systems, #1 commercial roofing company in Mississippi. Independent Roofing Systems, roofing.ms. SEC Insider Hit is also brought to you by Mississippi Ag. That's where you go to get your next John Deere tractor to manage your land. Mississippi Ag, 2 locations, Canton and Pearl, agup.com. 16 total locations. Welcome in. Good morning. We are the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Tanner Allen. This was Tanner Allen's team. This was TA's team. He took it, and, he was fortunate, Blake, to play under Jake Mangum, and he kind of bottled what Mangum infused, right?
Yeah.
Into the program.
He bought in immediately as a freshman.
He did.
Yep.
And the coach that signed him was relieved of his duties 3 games into his career. And from there, really, the rest is history. Mangum and Tanner Allen, they'll always be connected. TA and Rowdy, they'll always be connected. And then some guys emerged this year. Landon Sims, of course, the absolute stud reliever who's got that mindset and personality to close games, and he was so valuable throughout the year, but down the stretch when they needed more juice. Credit to Foxhall and Lamonis for not overpitching their guys in February, March, and April, and their staff had enough juice in the tank when you got to call them back on a day's rest, 2, 3, whatever days rest. Because, Blake, there were many times where they pulled them 70 pitches in early in the year.
Yep.
80 pitches in,
maybe, yeah,
and
absolutely.
so on. And we're very conservative. Their end game was always to play for the CWS. And guys like Preston Johnson had enough juice, Houston Harding. But even Bednar and Landon Sims were not overused February, March, April into May.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know, you're going to hear me talk about this, and I don't know if I can overemphasize it, but I just did not know how incredibly difficult, excruciating, brutal, and tough this thing is to do, and how you have to have your arms as rested as they can be.
Yeah.
At that point in the year.
Well, and I think what's incredible, so everybody's going to focus on Will Bednar, and rightfully so, because not only was it the final game. Yeah, right. Not only was it the best pitcher in college baseball, not only was it the final game of the season, and obviously everything's on the line, and you beat Kumar Rocker, who up to that point had never lost in the postseason and was 3-0 and basically unhittable in elimination games. So you put up 6 innings of no-hit baseball. It's the best performance you could have ever asked for on the biggest stage you could ask for. That's great. I don't think it can be overstated that not only did he do that on short rest, but the day before, Houston Harding did his on short rest.
Yeah.
After pitching Friday. And I just, that type of pitching performance, when you did, like you said, when you basically went into Omaha and over the whole course of the 2 weeks, you only had one of your weekend guys pitch well the whole time. That's it.
I want to switch gears real quick. I want to talk about Chris Lamonis. Here is a guy who, I remember y'all, by the way. I remember y'all. I did not. But I remember y'all throwing a fit when he was hired.
So everybody's mad.
Okay? And y'all were all up in arms and hot and bothered because the guy was from Indiana. Or he's not from Indiana. He was coaching at Indiana at the time, and nobody knows about Indiana baseball. Yeah. I get it.
He wasn't Dan McDonald.
Well, right. But what we started the show with that next day, after we were the first to tweet that it was going to happen at like 11 o'clock that morning, then we were told to stop. That was only because one of his assistants started following me on Twitter. But that's a whole other discussion for another day.
That's a good day.
So the point is, on that he was hired on a Sunday.
Yep.
On that Monday, we kept tying him to Dan McDonald, who is, I mean, he's a really good coach, but he has become, because of what he did at Ole Miss and because of Mississippi State and Ole Miss talking about him for 16 years, he's become Tony La Russa. But the point is, he's obviously an excellent coach, and he and Lamonis are best friends. But I want to give credit to Lamonis for walking into what he walked into. He walked into a program who had just had an amazing run with an interim coach, who had a transcendent player, and I think what is a somewhat of a big personality. I mean, but I tell you what, Jake Mangum's presence is felt, okay? And Chris Lamonis, through all of his stretch from the Citadel, which is like this super bright baseball program, like they have a lot of them in the Carolinas, and all of what Lamonis did in the 90s and 2000s was the resume and pedigree of what he needed to walk in and take over a program that, let's be honest, was desperate to win a title. Mm-hmm. And he walks in, and his boss, let's just be honest, Cohen takes a lot of oxygen out of the room too, okay? So he walks in, and his boss is a former coach and player who's had a lot of success. He walks in, and he's got a transcendent player who is off the charts driven like only 1 in 1 million people, maybe more than that. And he also inherits an assistant who people had literally swooned and fallen in love with in Jake Gautreaux. In fact, more people loved Jake Gautreaux than Chris Lamonis when Chris Lamonis took the job.
Yeah, remember when people were asking, should we have hired?
Absolutely.
Should we just have promoted from or how long before Gautreaux
Right. So Chris Lamonis is, one, an adult, which is what you need.
At
2,
this level, yeah.
He's very measured, balanced in his life. Again, he had the ability to understand what he was walking into. And all these things were going on, and it was a program that wanted a title so bad that they couldn't function. And so you got Gautreaux, you got Mangum, you got Cohen, and then you got the ghost of never winning it.
Yep.
And this guy has the ability to come in and manage all that and deliver.
Oh, yeah, and then he had to navigate COVID, by the way.
And, yeah, then he had to navigate.
And arguably lose his 2 best MLB players that he's had in 3 seasons on the offensive side of things.
Cohen called him the best shortstop and second baseman to ever play at Mississippi State. And as far as talent head to toe, I think Cohen's spot on with Westberg and Foscue. So there was a lot going on. I mean, Lamonis has only coached 2 years, really.
Yeah. 2 years and 17 games.
Right.
That's it.
And he's the guy that has the temperament, smarts, approach, life knowledge, baseball knowledge to handle, because you got to give Cohen, and Cohen built this. But Lamonis took it to the mountaintop, so to speak. And you have so many different pieces of the puzzle because Jake is such a big factor here because of kind of his whatever he sprinkled on the TA and Rowdy.
Yeah. Oh, and the rest of the club. I mean, you see it all the way throughout, though. And TA and Rowdy are the faces that are leading it now. But like you said, and what's interesting, and we're going to hear this clip here in just a second, Jake only had Chris Lamonis for 1 season, right? An off season, and then that 1 season in 2019.
Yeah.
And so it's not like Jake has a tie to Mississippi State, but there was not a, you see all the time where great players don't necessarily, if they get a new coach or whatever, it doesn't always click. They can still be respectful of each other and work it out, but like he doesn't owe Chris Lamonis anything, right? He doesn't owe him a vote of confidence or whatever.
Right.
But for Jake to recognize that over the course of his 4 seasons, when Chris Lamonis got there, that there was something different is interesting because you kind of feel like
here's
there's
where
a lot
going.
of that together.
You can't you cannot overstate what Lamonis was able to juggle and balance to get this team to the national championship and to win it in such a short amount of time. In other words, he understood what he was walking. He could. Do you know how many managers come in? I want to put my fingerprints on it, even if something is going very well.
Yeah,
I've got to change it just to change it. I have to. I need to We've got to have a new manual. I got to rewrite it.
Yep.
All this kind of nonsense.
Yep.
Okay. Chris Lemonis had the right approach and the understanding of, okay, here's what I've got. I'm going to put my mark on this program.
Yep.
But I also very much understand where the program is and where it's been and what I'm inheriting. And I don't think that you can understate or oversell his ability to navigate through several different things and make it all good. He and Jake Gautreaux have an unbelievable relationship. But they may have known each other a little bit, but they didn't know each other that well when Chris and look, not all coaches like when they have to keep an assistant. Dan Mullen did not like the fact that Greg Byrne, and by the way, it was smart of Greg, but that Greg asked Dan to hire Mark Hudspeth. It drove Dan crazy, even though they should have been able to work together and so on. Now, different environment, different, but you know what I'm saying. Lemonis said, okay, I get it. This has been, he's officially a rock star within the fan base, Jake Gautreaux, because of his year of keeping everything out of the ditches and on the road.
Yep.
Jake Mangum, he's already a star. I'm going to kind of go to him and, let him lead and so on. So I don't think you can say enough about Lemonis, his approach, all the people that he learned. This guy is very, very bright, smart, talented, good, but he can relate to players. And you know what else he can do? He can relate to a kid from rural Mississippi like Brad Cumbus.
Yep.
And he can relate to a kid like Will Bednar, who's from Pennsylvania, whose family lineage is full of athletes and coaches and whose brother's in Major League Baseball. And everywhere in between. And Tanner Allen's from the country, and other kids are from bigger markets and understand how to mesh and weave the whole thing together and tie it in a knot.
I think what you said, too, is so important to understand, because in any business, when you're a leader, there's a fine line between, like you said, putting your thumbprint on the program the right way, or whatever you're doing the right way, and putting your name on the front door. That's the difference. Chris Lemonis never cared about his name being on the front door. What he cared about was taking something good and trying to make it great.
Right.
Whatever that meant. His first year, it meant giving it to Jake Mangum. This year, it meant putting more of himself in the program.
Yes. And you know what else he did? He embraced the big elephant in the room,
which was the lack of a title.
And he talked about it
from day one.
Yes.
And he said, we're going to win a title.
He said this, he basically said this program has to host. You're not going to host both every year, but you want to try to host the regional, super regional, as many times as you can over a 5-year stretch. And he just took the bull by the horns and said, I understand why I am being hired. And that is not to win big. God knows they did enough of that. Not to win big.
Or pack the stadium.
And the great smoke coming off the grills and all that. Blah, blah, blah. I got tired of hearing that by 1994.
Attendance records
I was a little bit different kid.
Attendance records are fun, but titles are better.
Right.
Yeah.
It was about making Mississippi State title town.
And you know what Kyle Peterson said, and we'll talk to him at 9:30 today. Kyle Peterson said in the final broadcast after the Wednesday night game was it just brings to the national stage legitimate, like, everyone in the Southeast and everyone in like the deep baseball country knew that Mississippi State had a good program, but now nationally it's a respected program because it's finally brought home what matters.
Right.
And that, you can say we were a respected program before, and yes and no.
You cannot be elite without a title.
Nope. You
cannot be a power.
I've
said that. I ruffled feathers starting in 03 and 05 when I called out the head coach. and said that the thing was trending the wrong way because I knew what was going on. Hell, I even had my dad's friends said stuff to him. The bottom line is you have to hang a banner, okay? You have to hang a banner to be an elite program or a national powerhouse. You are now an elite program, and you are now a powerhouse baseball program.
And I know this is like a secondary thing, but I think it's important that you got it out of the way because the more baseball is just getting bigger and stronger across the board in the SEC and across the board in the country.
That's a great you just nailed it right there. Let's talk about that for 1 minute before we drop this Corbin audio, which is really good. It's really good. Tim Corbin is not the bad guy we have made him out to be.
Agreed.
The two whistlers, yes, and I thought Blake nailed that before the show too. But let's talk a little bit about what'd you just say, by the way?
How much better baseball is and going to be in the future.
To go ahead it's already like a million times more difficult today than it was 10 years ago, and 5 million times more than in 2002 or 1994 or 1983. To go ahead because watching the talent out in Omaha was an eye-opener for me.
All MLB.
All I've ever known my whole life because of my dad is college baseball. To watch Notre Dame come in, I've watched Barry Larkin. I watched Pete Incaviglia. I watched Roger Clemens. I saw Bertman's teams. I did this. I'm not new to the party. But I had to really wrap your brain around the talent out in Omaha. It's jaw-dropping how good these teams are. Their baseball IQ is insane.
That Texas team that Mississippi State had to beat twice was incredible.
Notre Dame and Arizona, who Mississippi State and Ole Miss faced in the Super, those teams are not, by the way, either one of those teams could win the national championship.
100%.
Either one of those teams could win the national title. A lot of you have been through this. I didn't get to go to as many Mississippi State baseball games in the 2000s. One, the program left the show, okay? Two, you got to build a business, and you have kids playing sports, and they're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and you don't have time to get up there. This year, for the first time since the 90s, I went to over 30 baseball games and got to appreciate more what it takes. But as Blake just said, how hard it is to win today and to go ahead and hang it because, y'all, it is the most, as one of our listeners just said on the Mississippi Ag text line, it is the most vetted championship in collegiate athletics.
100%. And I think, look, this is not a shot, but with Arkansas losing it in 2018, 18 when Mississippi State went 2-0, then lost to Oregon State, and then Oregon State, the drop pop-up.
Right.
Arkansas may win one next year. They may win 10 in a row. Whatever. But that type of stuff haunts you. It haunts your program. It haunts your head coach. It haunts your players.
The Gene Morgan ankle thing has haunted Mississippi State
for 40 years.
Ronald Reagan was in office.
For 40 years, it's haunted Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's will the next title be easy? No title is easy. But will it be easier? Yes, because the first one, when you're in this position, when every graphic, when you get to this level is never won a World Series, never won a title, never done this, never done that, that weighs on a team. And what was incredible was that this team just didn't feel it. They got beat like a rented mule in the SEC tournament, and it didn't matter.
Well, the Gatorade that Jake Mangum left for Tanner Allen and Rowdy, whatever's in it, everybody run to Starkville and get it because you want some of it for your kids. Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone, brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be blue, the official healthcare provider of the Out of Bounds show. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. Our College World Series coverage this week has been brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. This is Tim Corbin, the head baseball coach at Vanderbilt, talking about Mississippi State's hitting approach and how they operate with two strikes.
Great comeback for them in so many ways. I think they realized that they were never out of this thing, even after we beat them in the first game. They pitched so well. Bednar was outstanding. Sims is next-level reliever. The players are tough. They're really tough. They do such a nice job of playing offense and playing defense. It's a very good team, and we send our congratulations over to them and everyone from Mississippi State.
Personally left it all out there, and before the season started, I said to myself that I want these young guys to experience exactly what I experienced. And came a game short of that, but that's part of it.
I think the thing that you identify with once you get out at this level is, if you're a younger kid, the execution of really good pitching, the execution of really good hitting. And you can take Mississippi State's numbers and you can look at their batting average, but that tells nothing. And sometimes numbers don't tell the story, and they certainly don't with that team, because that team challenges you on every single pitch. And really with some of them, and my mind moves to Hancock right away, it's almost like the at-bat starts when he gets to 2 strikes, and then he's tough to put away. I mean, his plus-minus numbers are incredible. Has 44 walks and 16 strikeouts. That's insane.
He's right. That's not a realistic stat. That's incredible.
Right, first of all, tip of the cap to Tim Corbin. I think a lot of times in sports, we get it wrong, especially as guys, and we're not capable of walking it back because as guys, we're really hard-headed. And again, we already kind of form our idea of what sports is at 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, and it's very difficult to move off of that. It's not Tim Corbin. It's the Whistlers.
He's not the villain.
He's not the villain.
I gained a lot of respect for Tim Corbin out of this series.
His post yesterday, or his quote, maybe his SID posted it, who cares? But his post on Mississippi State baseball, class act. I think it is easy to hate them. They wear the black and gold.
They're the big bad empire of
They're
baseball.
the big bad empire. They're the number 1 college baseball program.
And even though it's not
in the country,
it's
the
not
last
Corbin's
decade.
fault, but the scholarship thing adds to the spice of it.
But it's the Whistler and his brother that make them so easy to hate. And the things that he said about Mississippi State baseball and Chris Lemonis and the players, he couldn't say enough how tough. Again, he used that toughness. I know it sounds like a simple word, and we all think we're tough. But in life, that's what it takes in everything. It does.
Yeah.
Mental toughness.
You could have laid over after getting beat 8-2, and you come back and win 22-2 in 2 games.
Exactly.
Come on. That's not, you know what it is? And somebody said this on Twitter. The whole, that was a Mississippi State thing to do. It died when it comes to baseball this week. Yeah. Because this proved that the Mississippi State thing to do is to win. Finally. It's not to fill the stadium. It's not to have the coolest park. It's to win.
Cohen
said
he recognizes the crowds and all the stuff we talk about, but it was time to start to win big in the postseason. Like you said, enough about all the attendance numbers, and that's great. But see, the problem is you couldn't really go anywhere in that conversation with LSU, Vanderbilt, Florida. I want to go over some of these are the teams that have won it. You know, as of late, Vanderbilt, Florida, South Carolina, LSU. Hell, even Georgia won it in 1990, right? They don't care. So, unbelievable run. We'll have Chris Lemonis, Kyle Peterson, and Steve Robertson, maybe? Okay. That's who we have right now. I guess we could add to it. You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show. ESPN 105.9 The Zone, brought to you by Independent Roofing Systems, the number 1 commercial roofing company in Mississippi. Independent Roofing Systems, roofing.ms. Independent Roofing Systems is the number 1 commercial roofer in the state of Mississippi. Back in a second.